If you have passed 50 years old and feel that your life is not progressing as it should, stop now and pay attention to what I am about to reveal. There are 3 types of people who are stealing your energy, your peace, and your opportunities without you realizing it. And the worst part is, they are close people you trust, maybe even love. The Jewish wisdom taught in the Talmud over 2,000 years ago already warned about these silent destroyers. Today, scientific studies confirm that toxic relationships accelerate biological aging by up to 2.5 months for each year you spend with these people. That's right. Your body ages faster when you keep these people around. In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly who these 3 people are, how to identify them in your life right now, and most importantly, what to do to protect yourself using an ancient Jewish technique that changed my grandfather Abraham's life at 63 years old, when he was on the verge of emotional and financial bankruptcy. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell, because this information can literally add years of quality to your life. Let me tell you a true story that happened in my family. My grandfather Abraham arrived in Brazil in 1953 at the age of 28, with a suitcase of clothes and the dream of building something. He worked hard, very hard. By the age of 50, he had a decent fabric store in São Paulo, his own apartment, and 3 grown children. But something was wrong. He woke up tired every day. He had no desire to expand the business. He felt a weight on his chest that doctors couldn't explain. My grandmother Sarah noticed that he was different, quieter, more irritable, more distant. That's when something happened that changed everything. On a Friday night during the Shabbat dinner, my grandfather had an emotional breakdown. He, a man who never showed weakness, collapsed in front of the entire family. And between tears, he said a phrase I never forgot. "I work so hard, but I feel like I am digging my own grave. And the worst part is that the ones holding the shovel are the people I love the most." This phrase gave me chills when my grandmother told me years later. And it was at that moment that the community rabbi, Rabbi Moish, asked to speak with him privately. What happened during that conversation saved my grandfather's life, and that's exactly what I'm going to share with you now. Rabbi Moses opened the Talmud, specifically the Tractat Pirkei Avot, and read to my grandfather a teaching that said, "Keep away from a bad neighbor, do not associate with the wicked, and do not give up believing in retribution." My grandfather did not understand immediately. He said, "But Rabbi, I don't have bad neighbors. I do not associate with evil people. What are you talking about?" And the rabbi responded with another question. "Abraham, tell me one thing. Who is closer to you than a neighbor?" My grandfather thought and said, "My family, my partners, my friends." And the rabbi added, "Exactly. The Talmud is not only talking about address neighbors, it is talking about those who inhabit the same emotional space as you, and some of these emotional neighbors are toxic. They destroy you silently." Now pay attention, because here begins the revelation of the 3 persons. The rabbi explained to my grandfather that there are 3 types of silent destroyers that attack especially after age 50, when we are more vulnerable, more tired, and have less energy to fight. The first person is the dream vampire, the second is the permanent judge, and the third is the ghost friend. I will explain each of them in detail, and you will identify with at least one, maybe all 3. And in the end, I will give you the practical solution my grandfather used, which you can start applying today. The first person, the dream vampire. This person is someone you love, respect, or admire. It could be your spouse, an adult child, a sibling, or a friend of decades. And whenever you talk about a project, a dream, or an idea, this person responds with phrases like, "At your age, do you really think you'll succeed?" Or, "Forget it. You've worked too hard in life. Now it's time to rest." Or even, "That's risky. What if it goes wrong? You don't have more time to start over." It seems like concern, doesn't it? It seems caring, but it's not. It's pure poison. The Talmud calls this lachon hara, the evil tongue that kills 3 people: the speaker, the listener, and the person spoken about. And after 50, this tongue is even more lethal because our self-confidence is already fragile due to society telling us we are old, outdated, that our time has passed. Let me give you a real example. I met a woman named Donna Margarida, 57 years old, living in Belo Horizonte. She always wanted to open a small bakery. She made incredible cakes, decorated them perfectly. At 55, after raising 3 children, she had time and saved money, 38,000 reais, enough to start something small. She was excited, visiting commercial spaces, planning everything, until she told her family. Her eldest son said, "Mom, this is crazy. You have no business experience." The middle daughter said, "Mom, baking is tough. You can't handle that anymore." And her husband was even worse. "Margarida, stop daydreaming." Result, Donna Margarida gave up. She kept the money in savings. 3 years later, she was on medication for depression, overweight, with unexplained pains. And the worst, developing symptoms of early dementia. When I met her, she told me crying, "I died at 57. I'm just waiting for my body to follow." The family thought they were protecting her. They had no idea of the damage they were causing. This is the dream vampire. It drains your will to live. After 50, when you lose the will to live, your body interprets it as a sign to start dying. Now comes the scientific data that confirms all of this. New York University published a study with 2,232 people. They analyzed their DNA and found that those who interacted with disruptors, people who cause emotional stress, aged biologically 2.5 months more per year. 5 years living with someone like that is equivalent to a full year of extra biological aging. 10 years, 2 extra years. Your heart, your brain, your entire body older than it should be, because of a toxic person. The Talmud already knew this. He who dwells with the wicked, even if he does not learn their ways, suffers from his proximity. And now we move on to the second person, the permanent judge. The second person who silently destroys your life is the permanent judge. This one is even more subtle and painful because it is usually someone from your own family. It could be a brother, an elderly father, an adult child who has never left home, or even your spouse. This person criticizes everything you do, how you dress, how you speak, how much you spend, what you eat, where you go, who you talk to. Nothing is good enough. Nothing will ever be enough. And with each criticism, you feel a piece of yourself dying inside. You start to doubt yourself. You begin to shrink emotionally. You start to stop doing simple things because you know you will be judged. You begin to see yourself through that person's eyes, and those eyes never see you with kindness. The worst is when you start to believe you deserve these criticisms. When you internalize the voice of the permanent judge, it no longer needs to be present. You take on the role of self-sabotage. I'll tell you what happened to my grandfather Abraham. The dream vampire in his life was his partner, Isaac, who always said that my grandfather was too old to grow. But the permanent judge was his sister, my great-aunt Ruth. She lived a few blocks away and visited their house almost every day. And every visit was a court session. "Abraham, why did you close early today? Getting lazy?" "Abraham, you've gained weight. That's how you'll die early." "Abraham, paying for that on this shirt? Throwing money away." "Abraham, your children talk too much with you. Loose manners." My grandmother Sarah endured out of respect, but she saw her husband gradually fading away. Every time Aunt Ruth left, my grandfather would fall silent, as if gathering the pieces of his self-esteem. He ate less, smiled less, became a shadow of himself. Until one day, after an especially cruel critique, my grandmother exploded. She said, "Don't you realize what you're doing? You're killing my husband from the inside." It was the first time someone confronted Aunt Ruth. She made a scene, accused everyone of ingratitude, but she never appeared as often again. And weeks later, my grandfather confessed to my grandmother, "Sarah, I didn't realize it, but every time she came here, I felt like I was being skinned alive. It was like living with my own worth being weighed down every day." That is the permanent judge. It doesn't destroy all at once. It destroys slowly, like water falling on stone, eroding inch by inch. And after 50, when we already carry regrets, unfulfilled dreams, accumulated frustrations, this kind of criticism is like salt in open wounds. The Talmud talks about this in the Tractate Arakan. Public shame is equivalent to bloodshed. It's not a metaphor. Humiliation kills something inside you. I met a man named Joam, 61 years old, a former bank manager retired for 2 years. He approached me after a lecture and said, with tears in his eyes, "I wake up every day hoping not to wake up the next day." I asked why. He lived with his wife and mother-in-law, who had been living with them for 15 years. The mother-in-law was the permanent judge. "Joam, you do nothing. Joam, why do you walk so much? You're wearing out your shoes." "Joam," a man in the kitchen, turned into a little woman. "Joam, you don't help at all, and when you do help, you get in the way." And the wife, instead of defending him, agreed with her mother. Joam told me, "I worked for 42 years, raised 3 children, never disrespected, never cheated, never drank, and today I am treated like dead weight." He was on the verge of suicide. His body was alive, but his soul was suffering. Many people over 50 live exactly like this, being emotionally crushed by someone inside their own home. It was with Joam that I applied the same technique that Rabbi Moshe taught my grandfather. But before I share the technique with you, I need to introduce the third person, the most treacherous of all, the ghost friend. He is close, but never present. He laughs at your jokes, sends kind messages, shows up at parties and gatherings. But when you really need him, when you lose someone, fall ill, fail, cry, he disappears. He vanishes without warning, leaves you in emptiness. And when your life gets better, when you achieve something, he disappears too. Because others' success hurts him. He only appears in the perfect balance where you can serve as entertainment, a shoulder, or company, but never as a priority. After 50, the ghost friend is devastating. At this stage, we need real, deep connections, people who share the weight of life with us. But the ghost creates an even worse feeling than abandonment. It creates doubt. It makes you think, does anyone really care about me? Was any friendship I had real? And this loneliness, even among people, is the most dangerous. The Talmud says, when you abandon your friend will abandon you. It seems simple, but it is profound. Friendship only exists when there is reciprocity, and the ghost friend offers nothing but the illusion of companionship. Mrs. Helena, 65 years old, a widow from Porto Alegre, experienced the ghost firsthand. She had a friend of over 30 years, Mrs. Claudia. They were inseparable. But after Mrs. Helena's husband died, the friend disappeared. A month of presence, then silence. When Mrs. Helena called, there was always an excuse. When they finally met, they only listened to each other's problems. Never a sincere question about her pain. 6 months later, Mrs. Helena received a court settlement of 120,000 reais, and like magic, Mrs. Claudia reappeared. Full of enthusiasm, wanting to talk, suggesting partnership, asking for financial advice. When Mrs. Helena refused, the friend disappeared forever. And she told me, "I lost more than 30 years of my life believing I had a true friend. When I needed her most, she wasn't there." The ghost friend is dangerous because it creates invisible loneliness, the kind that no one sees because you seem to have friends, but have no support at all. And loneliness is as harmful as 15 cigarettes a day. Now that you know the dream vampire, the permanent judge, and the ghost friend, it's time for the most important part. I will teach you the ancient technique that saved my grandfather, and that can save you. This ancient technique is called Givul Nefesh, the border of the soul. It is the sacred act of setting emotional and spiritual boundaries to protect what is most divine in you. In Judaism, the soul is seen as a fragment of the Creator himself, something to be guarded with reverence. And if something or someone threatens that soul, you not only can but must protect yourself, even if that threat comes from your family, even if it comes from someone you love, because no relationship is worth more than your own soul. Rabbi Moshe taught my grandfather 3 simple yet profound steps to apply Givul Nefesh, and that is exactly what I will share with you now. just as he learned that night, which changed everything. First step, identify who is draining your soul. Grab a piece of paper right now, not tomorrow, not later, now. Write down the names of the people you feel worst after talking to. People who make you feel tired, small, confused, sad, bothered. It doesn't matter if it's your mother, your father, your brother, your spouse, your child, your best friend. It doesn't matter the story, the blood, the bonds. Write it down. Next to each name, write what these people make you feel: anger, frustration, anxiety, shame, guilt, helplessness. Be honest. This is the diagnosis. The Talmud says, there is no cure without diagnosis. To heal from toxicity, you need to recognize where it is. Second step, establish sacred boundaries. This is where many stumble because boundaries require courage. There are 3 levels of boundaries: light, moderate, and radical. The light boundary is simply reducing the time spent together. If you used to see this person 3 times a week, reduce it to once. If you used to talk every day, talk twice a week. No need to justify, no need to argue, no need to explain. Just protect your emotional space. You are taking care of yourself. The moderate boundary requires direct conversations. You need to say, firmly and calmly, I will no longer accept criticism about my life. If you talk to me, it will be about constructive things. If you start criticizing me, I will end the conversation. And when the criticism comes, and it will, you follow through with what you said. Stand up, leave the table, end the call, exit the room. Without arguing, without justifying, without drama, just action. Just like when raising a child. Behavior that is not rewarded disappears. The radical limit is complete cutoff, and it exists for extreme cases. It is when a person destroys everything they touch in you, whether emotionally, financially, physically. It could be an abusive marriage, a father who humiliates, a child who sabotages, a manipulative friend. In these cases, the Talmud is clear. Saving a life is the supreme commandment, and your life includes your mental health, your dignity, your soul. Completely cutting someone off is not cruelty. Cruelty is allowing someone to destroy you daily. Third step, strengthen the soul with genuine connections. Boundaries are not enough if you do not fill the space that remains. The soul needs to be nourished. After 50, true friendships are as essential as medicines. The Talmud says, acquire for yourself a friend. Note, acquire. That is, actively seek. You need to frequent environments where healthy people are. Activities that connect, groups that build, places that elevate. It could be a course, a walking group, a religious community, volunteer work, a book club. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you find someone who sees you, not your utility. Someone who listens to you, not judges you. Someone with whom you can be vulnerable. Now I will tell you what happened to my grandfather after he applied Givul Nefesh. First, he set a moderate limit with his partner Isaac. He said, either we expand or I sell my share. Isaac hesitated but realized that my grandfather was determined. In 18 months, they opened 2 new stores. Revenue doubled. Second, my grandmother applied a light limit with Aunt Rut. Instead of visiting her all the time, she started seeing her once a month. And when she began to criticize, my grandmother would say, it's time for us to go. No discussion, just a limit. That changed everything. The criticisms decreased and coexistence became tolerable. And third, my grandfather sought new connections. He joined a Jewish study group at the synagogue, made true friends, men who were in the same phase of life, who understood his pains and celebrated his achievements. This renewed him. At 68, he was more alive than at 50. He lived until 89, lucid and happy. Now I want you to do a practical exercise with me. Look at the paper where you wrote down the names of toxic people. Ask yourself, does this person add or subtract from me? Answer without mercy. No filter. And next to each name, define. Mild, moderate, or radical limit. Just writing it down already changes your energy. The Talmud says, intent is equivalent to action. The universe responds to the decision even before execution. Now write down 3 places where you can meet new people. Walking, choir, volunteering, dance class, book club, spiritual community, whatever it is, and make a commitment. In the next 7 days, participate in at least one of these activities, even if you're afraid, even if you're tired, because your life depends on it. The rabbi told my grandfather the story of Rabbi Akiva, who started studying at 40 when everyone had already given up on him, and he became one of the greatest sages in history. Why? Because he had his wife Rachel by his side, a true connection. Without her, Rabbi Akiva would never have become Rabbi Akiva. He would have been crushed by the vampires of dreams of that time. But he chose to protect his soul and strengthen the right bonds. You are at the same crossroads now. You can continue to be surrounded by people who diminish you, or you can set boundaries and make space for people who lift you up. If you do this, the coming years of your life will be the best. Now I will teach you a Kabbalistic prayer, a powerful energetic protection. Repeat after me. May my soul be protected from all evil on this day. May I recognize those who nourish me and those who drain me. May I have the courage to establish sacred boundaries. May I attract people into my life who elevate me. And may I distance myself from those who diminish me. May my soul be a sanctuary of peace, not a battlefield. May I live with authenticity, purpose, and love. Amen. Repeat this in the morning and at night. In 7 days, you will feel a difference. In 30 days, toxic people will start to distance themselves naturally. In 90 days, you will be unrecognizable, for the better. Let me tell you one last case. Carlos, 58 years old, a businessman from Brasilia, lost his company, his marriage, and his emotional health. He felt empty. He said, "I lived to please others. Today I don't know who I am." I applied the Givul Nefesh technique with him. He identified toxic people, set boundaries, and sought genuine connections. 8 months later, he sent me a message. "You saved my life." Today, I live in the countryside of Minas. I have a small farm. I work with coffee. I have peace. For the first time, at 59, he said, "I like who I am." That is what I want for you. Liberation, healing, transformation. You still have time. You still have value. You still have purpose. It all starts with a decision to protect your soul. Now, my final request. Do 3 things. First, comment here which of the 3 types you identified. Just say, "I have a dream vampire," or "I have a permanent judge," or "I have a ghost friend." When you name it, you weaken it. Second, share this video with someone you love. It could save a life. Third, subscribe to the channel. In the next video, I will teach you the Jewish technique to turn pain into purpose, something that has already changed thousands of lives. Until then, may you live with peace, healthy boundaries, and genuine connections. Shalom. Peace for your soul. Peace for your journey. Peace for your coming years.